God thunders wondrously with his voice. He does great things which we cannot comprehend. It's Job 37:5. It's been said that the most important thing about us is our concept of God, and I would agree with that. Paul says in his letter to the Ephesians, he describes God as saying, now to him who is able to do impossibly, infinitely more than I can even think or ask, according to his great power within me. King Bennett says in Psalm 3:3, God is not only a shield about us, not only our glory, but the very lifter of our head. So in 3 short verses, in the Old Testament and the New, we find that God is wondrously powerful, impossibly creative, overwhelmingly intimate. Why would I tell us about these 3 verses? Because I think it's important that we understand in whose house we sit right now. I think it's important that we understand to whom Brock and Ashley are committing the rest of their lives, to whom they are offering this covenant. It's interesting that God is the God who loves in a perfect way, the way that's described so often in weddings, as Paul describes in 1 Corinthians, the 13th chapter, the 8th verse, the 4th. He says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It's not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It's not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. That's not a roster for us to try to satisfy. It's an understanding that that's how God loves us. We say, I can't love that way. Jesus says, I know, my son and my daughter, but I can and I do. And if you'll trust me, if you'll lean on me, this is what I will reveal to you and express through you every single day, more and more, as you commit yourselves to each other through me. King Solomon, King David's son, the most powerful king who ever lived, said in Ecclesiastes 3:11, something really important, where everything is beautiful, perfect, beautiful in its time. What that indicates to us is that as we get to that moment that will come, when we look at our timeline, our lifeline, from the proverbial 10,000 feet, we'll see that God provided perfect substance and perfect timing, exactly what we needed when we needed it. That's why you did that at that moment. That's why you didn't answer that prayer. You did answer this prayer. It looks so different in the way that I hoped. Everything fits into its place. And so it's with that understanding of that God and the perfection of what he places in our timeline that I want to read to you Ephesians 3:1-8. It happens to be Ashley's favorite passage from the Bible. And King Solomon says, for everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. And it's not us who decides when those times are appropriate. It's again leaning on that perfect love of God, that perfect shepherd, that wondrously powerful God, impossibly creative, incredibly intimate. He decides when those times occur. And so as we know now that everything is beautiful and perfect in its time, we can look at where we are today. We can place this template over Brock and Ashley. We sit here today, 2 days removed from the 10th anniversary of their very first date. Ashley shared with me the first recollection that she had of time alone with Brock, and it was on the steps of the gym at Greater Atlanta Christian School, waiting for a third classmate to pick them up, to take them over to the Waffle House to work on a physics project on how to build a bridge out of toothpaste. If I had a dime for every engineering marvel that was conceived in Waffle House, right? And as Ashley said, it turns out we're not engineers, and the bridge didn't do too well. But as she recalls that time on those steps, it's interesting. She says, our conversation consisted of nothing. We didn't say a word to each other. But Brock found words. And in the next call, he asked Ashley out on a date, and she was prepared to avoid the potential for that same awkward silence. They went straight to a movie, but that date went well. And the next dates went well. And the semester went well. And God led them to different schools. Ashley went to Auburn, and Brock went to Alabama. It was an important time. As Ashley said, and I love how she put it, it let us find our way independently. And it turned out our way was consistent. It turns out there was harmony. It turns out we both had common interests. It turns out we had to pick up the phone and actually talk to one another on the telephone, learn about one another, communicate. And I know the relationship grew through that. It was time to seal the relationship, so Ashley decided to change and transfer to Alabama. Brock had been working so hard on that baseball team, and he suddenly started to be able to play. And suddenly he started. He did great things for that baseball team. And it's my pleasure to join Brock's mother and Ashley there in baseball stadiums to really get to know them. That time came to an end, great highs, great lows in Tuscaloosa, I think of April 27th. An amazing day, and they bore it. God carried them through all chapters. He brought them back here to Atlanta. And there were highs and lows there, humbling times. Had to find out what we're going to do with life after college. And they stuck with one another. God was with them. And Ashley went on and got a master's degree. She has more acronyms than a veterinarian, which is fitting because she loves vegetables. And you might get that by the way. Brock ends up, he's got a position, coaching job here at Georgia State, and things have just fit perfectly. And isn't that just the way our God works? Because everything is beautiful and perfect in its time. 5 years ago wasn't the right time. 3 years ago wasn't the right time. Last year wasn't the right time. But as we sit here today, gathered together in this perfect church, this beautiful family, beautiful friends, this beautiful bride, this fantastic room, today is perfect. So God bless everybody. God bless Brock. God bless Ashley. God bless this amazing lady. Thank you so much.